Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a profoundly sacred inward journey based on the teachings of Advaita Vedanta and the legendary Indian sage Nisargadutta Maharaj. We're going to strip away all those layers of illusion to discover what actually remains when the constant noise in your head finally just stops. So get comfortable, clear your focus, and let's explore the deepest truths of who, or rather what, you really are.
I want you to pause for just a second. Seriously, ask yourself, who is actually thinking your thoughts right now? We spend almost all of our time completely absorbed in the absolute chaos of our minds, right? The worries, the plans, the judgments. But there is a sacred moment on the journey to awakening where you shift your focus away from those chaotic thoughts and toward the silent space where those thoughts actually appear. You begin to notice that something inside you is just observing the mind. It's not judging, it's not controlling, it's just watching. So what exactly is that mind doing all day? Well, it is essentially the world's greatest storyteller. Seriously, it's like a secret magician pulling the strings on almost all of humanity's emotions, reactions, and desires. Most of us have never truly seen how our own mind works. We just live completely trapped inside its stories. The mind is constantly interpreting reality, spinning these elaborate tales about the past and the future, and we just mistakenly accept those continuous interpretations as reality itself. To see how this plays out, just think about your typical morning drama. You wake up and bam, you step right into a psychological narrative. Ugh, my life is terrible, or I'm just not good enough. But according to Maharaj, we aren't actually bound by the world itself. We're bound by our identification with the world's narrative. Think about it. A rain shower is just a neutral event in reality, but your mind turns it into, today is ruined, life is against me. Someone's spoken words are literally just sound waves, but the mind transforms them into a massive personal attack. We live in the meanings our minds create, not in direct reality. Because of this, there's a profound contrast happening inside you at all times. On one hand, your body ages, your emotions are constantly shifting, and your thoughts are racing nonstop. But beneath all of that chaos is the observer, that primal, raw feeling of, I exist. And here's the crazy part. That feeling remains completely unchanged from your childhood all the way to this exact present moment. Maharaji calls this the I am state. Not I am a successful person or I am a failure, but just the naked feeling of existing, long before any labels are added on. Okay, let's actually test this together right now. This is literally the gateway to pure awareness. Stop what you're doing and don't try to think. Don't even try to meditate. Just feel your own presence. Drop all the labels. Forget I am a man, or I am a woman, or I am wounded. Just exist. You don't need any words or images for this. Just notice that there is a quiet, silent presence that's always there, even when your external life is turned completely upside down. Think of this pure awareness like a blank movie screen. It remains completely unaffected by the tragic or comedic movie playing on it, right? Or think of it like electricity. There's just one singular essence of electricity, but it can illuminate thousands of different, totally unique light bulbs. The awareness inside you operates the exact same way. It is the absolute foundation of all experience, completely untouched by the specific details of the experiences themselves. Now, in the ancient traditions of India, this true self, this silent presence we're talking about, is called Atman. This essence of pure, silent awareness doesn't actually belong to you as some sort of personal possession. It's alive, it's deeply aware, and it is the very foundation of all human experience. It's basically the wide open space into which all your thoughts and experiences appear and then inevitably disappear. But here is where it gets truly mind-bending. The ancient Indian sages realized that Atman is entirely inseparable from Brahman, which is the ultimate cosmic consciousness. And what this means in practice is absolutely magical. The seeker and the sought are actually one and the same. Let that sink in. You are already exactly what you are desperately searching for. Now, if your brain is doing somersaults right now and that sounds confusing, don't worry. The mind struggles to grasp pure awareness because the mind only knows how to divide things. That's how it survives. It creates boundaries and labels. Me versus you, success versus failure, holy versus ordinary. Pure awareness, on the other hand, simply exists without any labels or boundaries whatsoever. Because the mind operates purely on division, it literally cannot comprehend a state of absolute unity. There's this brilliant moment where someone asked Maharaji how to attain enlightenment, and he fired a piercing arrow straight into their spiritual ego. He just asked, find out who is the one seeking enlightenment. I mean, wow.
He completely challenged the very identity of the person trying to wake up, basically pointing out that the seeker might just be another clever idea fabricated by the mind.
And this exposes the ultimate trap of the ego. The ego absolutely loves wearing different masks. Sure, it's perfectly happy playing the wounded victim, but it is equally happy playing the special individual, the knowledgeable expert, or, get this, even the enlightened saint. People literally meditate for decades and still suffer because they haven't seen through the ego. Their ego just put on a shiny new spiritual cloak. They stop competing for material wealth and just start competing to be the most enlightened person in the room. The ego didn't die, it just changed its wardrobe.
So, how does the ego sustain these masks? They're a kind of hypnotic repetition, what we can call the gramophone effect. The mind absolutely thrives on repetition. It constantly replays the exact same fears, hurts, and desires over and over like a skipping record. And because these thoughts are repeated thousands of times, it creates a hypnotic illusion. If you constantly think, I am worthless, well, after a few years, you don't see it as just a passing thought anymore. You mistakenly feel it as your core identity. But remember, repetition doesn't create truth. It only creates psychological habits.
This entire inner setup we've been talking about, that is a core part of what's called Maya. Now, Maya is often translated as the cosmic illusion, but it's not just about the physical world being fake. It specifically refers to the mind's incredible ability to create a fictional inner storyteller and a distinct, separate sense of self. When you really observe deeply, you realize you won't actually find this storyteller anywhere. There are only thoughts and memories popping up, but no fixed entity behind them pulling the strings. The separate self is quite literally just a label.
And because the ego is just a fictional construct, it is absolutely terrified of silence. This is exactly why we crave constant phone scrolling, background noise, or just endless conversation. Without all that psychological noise, our fragile sense of I starts to disintegrate. To the ego, deep silence feels like actual death. But to pure awareness, that exact same silence is absolute freedom. When you finally stop running from that silence and just allow the ego to dissolve, you hit upon this massive, life-changing revelation. Being nobody is actually the greatest peace. Just imagine the immense relief of realizing you no longer need to protect your image or maintain a role or constantly prove your worth to anyone, not even yourself. All that burnout and exhaustion just drops away, and what's left? Only pure, lively, boundless awareness. You see, enlightenment isn't about achieving something new or transforming into some superior version of yourself. It's simply the dissolution of the illusion. It's realizing you were never actually the ego to begin with. It's exactly like the sky realizing it was never truly covered by clouds. The clouds of thought, they appear and disappear all day long, but the sky of awareness remains completely untouched and totally intact. Advaita Vedanta compares our normal, unawakened state to being fast asleep and dreaming. The ego is just a character within that dream who firmly believes they are completely independent and separate, and in the dream, they experience very real fear, pain, and joy. But upon waking up, there is a profound shift in perspective. You instantly realize that the entire dream, including the character you thought you were and all the suffering, appeared within one single consciousness. Waking up is simply seeing that the dream character isn't who you actually are. Now, there's a really persistent myth out there that losing your ego makes you cold, distant, or somehow emotionless. But the truth is the exact opposite. When the ego dissolves, life doesn't disappear. Life truly begins for the first time. Without the constant, annoying interference of the mind's commentary, you actually see trees more clearly. You hear sounds more deeply. You unlock this profound love that isn't based on need or the fear of loss, but rather a natural union with all of life. You're finally living life directly, rather than just living through a story about life. So the death of the ego is not some tragedy to be feared. Not at all. It is simply the end of the exhausting dream of separation. Think of it as a single drop of water finally realizing it has never, ever been separated from the vast ocean. What you have been seeking so desperately has always been present, quietly waiting behind every single thought and every single story. I'm going to leave you with one final thought as we wrap up this explainer today. And hey, don't try to answer this with words. Just let it pull you inward. If the mind is just a story, who is the one silently observing this very moment? Thank you so much for joining me as we explored the incredible wisdom of Nisargadutta Maharaj. Let that silence linger for a bit.